We're back, people, and today we're going to come film on the Philadelphia Eagles defense, taking a look up, game preview, matchup with the Dolphins, how the Dolphins can really attack them. Now, when you look at the Eagles defense, they're basically running the Vic Fangio scheme, very similar, so Dolphins fans should be familiar with it at least. And I think they run it more effectively. Obviously, they're a lot more efficient with their pass distributions and things like that. I do think in this game, the Dolphins won't be as effective running the ball as they've been throughout this entire season. So I could see this kind of similar to the Chargers game. Like Chargers, Eagles run a similar defensive scheme. Dolphins had a very good day passing. I just think the Eagles are more talented. But going into similar things to that, it's going to be a lot on Mike McDaniel. I think comes out of two things. McDaniel really attacking with the motion, his stacks, and just getting them his receivers' natural leverage advantages. Eagles love to disguise their coverage, but also it's all about depth, leverage within the route stem, and then communication and distributing those routes. Now the Dolphins can just make it confusing on these defensive backs. I think they can really attack and have some big plays down the field. And then another area that I think is probably the most important is the interior offensive line versus the interior D line for the Eagles. The D line for the Eagles, I think that's the biggest difference for the Chargers. They didn't have that interior push, and with Eichenberg probably playing, they really need to be on their A game. The scheme does help them out a lot, but they just can't be getting destroyed instantly. They got to, help each other out, doing their job, and hopefully the scheme having a little bit of a run effect, using things like play action, getting to slow down that pass rush up the middle, because they can be very effective. And, you look at this Rams play right here. This is the Eagles love to run cover 3. They're showing cover 3 pre-snap, but look how they rotate into this. This guy ends up being the middle of the field closed defender, deep third, he bumps down. And then this is a good play. I think, Rams don't have... I went to the Rams game because I thought they had the most similar offense to the Dolphins. They love to use some of these motions. Slightly different, but, run the deep over with a corner behind it, while Kupp has, an option route, which I think they got to have some option routes, in these games, because the Eagles are all about their leverage, so giving a receiver some option to break inside-outside based on what he's seeing, and then attacking. This is pretty crazy for this guy to end up being middle field close. And Tua's a big pre-snap quarterback, so he's got to be able to adjust and read these things on the fly. The 3rd and 4th situation, Eagles go man-to-man, cover 1, and bring 5 like this with the linebackers blitzing. Got to be able to get the ball out quickly, recognize. I don't think they're going to do this too often. Eagles ran a lot of single high looks in this game, cover 1, cover 3. And I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to do it for sure, but I don't think it's going to be as consistently. You can see they're showing a too high look, possibly quarters type of look with this safety look pre-snap. But he comes down, and they just have a nice, easy pitch and catch. I think if Tua sees this is something he will definitely excel against. He's been very good against the blitz all season. In 3rd and medium, he's going to get the ball out fast if he sees this natural spacing. These are the types of plays I'm not too worried about, but I just don't think the Eagles are going to come out and do this a whole ton, especially against this Dolphins offense. You can see them playing a little more split field looks against them. So if they are going split field, they do have to be able to run the ball a little more effectively, but I just don't think that's going to be their game plan throughout this whole game. You could see a lot of screens as well. Rams threw a bunch of screens in this game. They weren't super effective, but their front is really aggressive, so they got to be able to slow them down a little bit in different ways. Another example of these motions, I'm gonna be curious how the Eagles sort of play, obviously with those quick out cheat motions. Rams were doing in this game, just bringing things in, and you can see how they pass this off, just playing man-to-man across the board, trying to throw that deep in. Safeties do a good job. I know they're a little banged up in the secondary, but these are things you got to pay attention to. Look how they play the motion here. They actually pass this off. This guy who's lined up on him actually takes the inside guy on man, just makes it easier for them to distribute these routes. And then Stafford tries to hit the dig behind it with this over here, and the safety is able to sit on it middle of the field. Not a lot of separation there at all, and it's going to be a little more difficult, I think, for the Dolphins to create separation in this game, but they have the receivers to do it for sure. Just got to take advantage of the opportunities when they're given to you. Here's, the Rams running toss, and you can just see how it's going to be pretty difficult to run toss as consistently because the Dolphins run a lot of crack toss. And it's not like it's a terrible look pre-snap too. Look at the numbers they have to this side of the field. They have 4 guys to this side if you want a 5 if you count the nose, but then you have the 3 offensive linemen. So they kind of have a 6-on-5 to this side of the field with a corner. So 6-on-6 for the running back, but this defensive tackle is able to just shoot up field, and this not able to reach them. If they get a look like this where they're basically playing a tight type of front, this guy's a 4-eye, and they're going to ask the left guard to reach him, which the Dolphins have done for sure, but they might, change things up, have this guy really chip down, double him, and then work to the second after that. So it just depends on sort of what fronts you're getting from them, but I just don't think you're going to be running these types of plays as consistently against this defense. I think you're going to see more of that week 1 game where that was like the only game the Dolphins really like abandoned the run, and I'm kind of fine, not completely abandoning it. I'm kind of fine with them going away from it a little bit if that passing game is really what's cooking for the offense. I like this play down in the red zone that the Rams did. They scored on 3rd and 3. Motioning down into bunch and then working out, because a lot of the game the Rams were motioning down into the bunch and then they were using Atwell to like work across the field. I wouldn't mind to see, like, the Dolphins are just like the juiced up version of the Rams offense. So the Rams offense wasn't super effective in this game against the Eagles, but I think the Dolphins will definitely see more success. I think the other side of the field where you really have to worry is about the Dolphins defense, which I will break down later. But you can see how they bring this across. It just gets this guy a little more depth. He can't stay up press because this guy's pressing number 17, and he just gets a man-to-man look to the outside here. He ends up taking the number 2, and then the safety is supposed to take this, and it puts this guy in a bind because he can't take both guys, and he just gets a natural. He basically had 2 options to go with here, to the corner or to the quick out, and the quick out gets there. So definitely opportunities to be taken advantage of with your motions. It's going to be a really big game for McDaniel. Hopefully this isn't like the Chargers game last year, and it's more like the Chargers game this year with how he's able to pre-game for this one. Another example that the Rams motioning across Eagles in cover 3. You can see how they end up playing this, which they do a pretty good job distributing this across, him finding number 3, the hook defender. They end up playing this pretty well, but everything else should have been open. Like, this guy runs like a return route, Nakua escapes across, and he throws this. And Slay kind of gets routed here at the top by Kupp. If they get like Tyreek all this room to work with, which I think he can, Mike McDaniel can get him these options, lining up down in the slot just like this. There's definitely he ends up dropping it to Nakua, but these are just areas where the Eagles do make it tough on you, but you have to be able to execute. Like, it's not that hard to catch this ball, and it's a 3rd and 7 situation. There is opportunities to work. It's just going to be a little more difficult than it's been since more like the Bills game, but not as tough as the Bills game. Rams at the top of the screen here have like this return route at the top and then running the corner behind it. Dolphins actually kind of ran something similar last week. It's not something that's huge in their playbook, but there will be opportunities with these stacks to get your natural leverage advantage. Look at this. These corners have to, adjust right pre-snap because they're still communicating. It just gives Kupp this release to the inside. He's able to stack over the top. There's middle safety help. They're running cover 3 match. They're matching here. Everyone's just matching their guy. And you got to win your one-on-ones in these scenarios. And the real problem, like, if they get straight up one-on-one and the defenders don't have like that natural leverage depth advantage just from where they're aligned and they got the perfect play call, the receivers can execute. And that's sort of what you see with, like, just looking at the last 2 Chargers games the Dolphins played. You can see just how different the scheme makes it. Like, they were really prepared for this one this year, and they just dominated. The one last year, they weren't prepared, and there was just no separation created. And I think, McDaniel's done a much better job this season with that type of stuff. So that's why I think, the offense will still be fine, even if they're not firing on all cylinders. This is kind of similar to what the Dolphins have done with Tyreek on their, streaks here. Eagles basically in a cover 1 type of look, but the safety's cheating to the single side, but he's not able to get there. They just throw it up to Nakua, get this touchdown. They're playing press at the bottom of the screen. He's playing with his outside leverage. Dolphins have been getting some of this lately, but they're playing like a little inside leverage or just straight up. If Tyreek gets this, which I don't think he will, I feel like the Eagles have seen what they've done. He might get one opportunity at this, and the Dolphins have done a great job all these games, just getting your one opportunity and getting a perfect throw. Tyreek just destroys his guy off the line. If the Eagles actually give them this, I think the Dolphins can easily take advantage like they've done in the past few games. But we'll see if Philadelphia adjusts and doesn't allow that type of play to even happen. Also, just be aware of Jalen Carter. He's a beast. Their whole interior is beast. Their whole D-line is a beast. They have a lot of good players, and I think most of them are playing this week. I think they're missing some safeties, which is like where you can attack this defense this week. But this is what worries me. If he gets a one, they slide even to his side, and if Eichenberg can easily be just tossed by a club like that, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I think That's where this offense, I think, can get into the most trouble this week. Here's a fun concept that you could see that's kind of, in the similar sort of work as the Dolphins one. Something they ran a lot last year. I mean, not sure what happens. I think Kupp slips up here, but they motion across, have this guy running, the rail. Kupp's supposed to be working on the deeper over, and then Nakua comes underneath it. If you give Tua some times, there will be things to work with. Eagles go quarters, which they haven't done a ton in this game. Like, they're definitely a team that will run quarters, cover 6, things like that. But the games I watched, they're running cover 3 at a pretty high rate. So just got to be able to read these defense, take advantage. Their linebackers are decent, but there's definitely areas to attack against them. Like, they're going to gain depth for sure and try to take away a bunch of it. But if they do gain a bunch of depth, I would like to see us have, some running backs or a tight end just leak out in the middle of the field, which they have been. Tua just hasn't had to throw those. There's usually a guy here like Durham Smythe or Julian Hill, maybe Ingold, one of the running backs, but he hasn't had to throw it because these guys are usually open. But right here, I wouldn't mind seeing him throw that type of play, but they still complete it down the field. These are things that the Dolphins are really good at, and the Rams had some big play success here. They just weren't able to do this consistently. Good play here from the Eagles defense. They're disguising, showing quarters pre-snap. They rotate into cover 3. Gotta recognize this. This ball comes out a tiny bit late. It looks like they're throwing this dig with the over. I think Stafford has to pressure, step up, and he's just a little bit late on his throw. This is a play that could be completed for the Dolphins offense if Tua is throwing it with anticipation, like he's reading this guy come down. Also, if he's reading here, he probably could just throw the over against this linebacker. There's definitely space to work with. You can get receivers working into, this is a receiver working into, a linebacker zone, and you can, if you space it correctly, there are opportunities. I think McDaniel will watch these films and see these types of things, especially when they rotate into a single high. You can get a receiver lined up on these linebackers. That was almost an interception off a play that had multiple options, but the Eagles got pressure up front. Got to be able to not allow the pressure to happen too quickly against this team. Rams did miss a big one. They went empty, and empty was actually pretty successful. And here you can see the Eagles, there was either a miscommunication or this guy was rotating, and it looks like it might be cover 3 without, these guys look like they're playing deep third. He's matching up here, but this guy kind of sits over to the side of the field. Maybe he's just late to rotate, but they attack down the middle of this seam, and Stafford just misses him as one of his misses of the year. Stafford's actually been really good, but he just misses that shot down there. And the guy who misses that, Blankenship, who's been very good for them, I don't think is playing this week or is unlikely to play. But yeah, attacking those safeties, middle of the field. I think that's the weakness right now of that Eagles team, is the middle of the field for them. Their corners aren't playing too great either, but I think attacking the pass defense, their front is really good at stopping the run and getting some pass rush. This is where I think the Dolphins passing game can really shine like it did in week 1. Last play that we're going to break down, just what I was talking about earlier, giving some, your best receiver some option route. Kupp just, slow playing this off the line, getting him ideal matchups. The Rams did a good job of that in this game, and I think, McDaniel's something he can easily do against, the Eagles team. He can do it pretty much against everyone, getting, Waddle and Hill, obviously their ideal matchups. They're playing cover 3. This guy's rotating, or this guy's like a buzz defender. This guy goes down on the flat linebacker. They're playing a 4 to this side, and then they basically have 2-on-2 to this side. They basically get their number advantage because just lining up the running back to this side puts these guys over here, putting the strength of the defense to this side. And then you have a deep third safety and basically get 2-on-2, which is nice. And you have all that space to work with. Good play calling by McVay, setting up your best players like that for Kupp. And these are, just natural leverage. What I was saying earlier, stopping the interior front. Good thing the Dolphins do get the ball out quickly. I do think it will have a little more effect than what they faced throughout the season, but they'll still be, it'll be a little more difficult for the Eagles defense than what they're used to as well. So it should be a good matchup. Excited to see it. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.